It's the Aca-Education Podcast. Bring acapella to music class. The Aca-Education Podcast. All educators, you get outside of these boxes.
So for this week's Quick Beats episode, I took a clip from episode 17 of the Aca-Education Podcast where I talk with Ryan Stuempges, the vocal director of Gale-Ettick-Trempleau's Vocal Point in Wisconsin. Here he talks about how to make efficient and simple practice tracks. Take a listen. So you had gone through your process, or your rehearsal process, the 5 steps. You talked about the importance of learning notes and rhythms kind of beforehand, and you made mention of learning tracks and things like that. So how do you go about preparing those things for your students beforehand?
Sure. At first, it was daunting because I was sitting there literally recording tracks with I was recording the piano with me, singing one part. And trying to click track it together and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this takes forever. I'm not doing this. And I stopped. Mm-hmm. And then I just, through talking to people and whatever, I learned, I used to, when I would have arrangers arrange for me, I'd just be like, hey, can you send the voice tracks to me? And they would send them all out. And then I'm just like, I don't want to wait for them. I want to be able to do it myself. And how do they do it? And I just figured out, I just take the MIDI file. For me, and there's different ways you can do this. You can use Pro Tools. You can use different things. I use GarageBand. I have a Mac. So I use GarageBand. I just take the MIDI file of the piece of music, and you can just literally drag it into GarageBand, and GarageBand will separate all the parts for you.
Yep.
And so then I put it in GarageBand, and I just pan everything to the right, and then I turn down all of the volumes, and then let's say I want to do the soprano track. So everything's to the right except for the soprano. I move that to the left side, and then I turn the soprano way up, and I send that to iTunes. And now it's an MP3, and I put it in a Google Drive for the kids. And I create all the tracks just like that. It literally takes me about 5 minutes a song. And I've got all the voice tracks there right for them. Now it's not someone singing it. And I've had that. Lee does that sometimes. It's helpful to get emotion and all that kind of stuff, dynamics, but this is the quick and easy way. So yeah, that's how I do it. I just put it in GarageBand, and they have their voice track pan to the left, and then the other part of the mix is to the right. So I tell them, like, when you're learning it, if you're better at just like take your right ear out and just listen to your part. Okay. And then when you get really good at it, when you kind of get good at it, put the right ear back in. And then when you get really good at it, take your left ear out and see if you can kind of sing over the top of that arrangement. Kids do it all different kinds of ways. Like I said, they all learn different. That's just my suggestion. But that's how I go about making those voice tracks. And now I know some folks out there are like, MIDI file, like, what are we talking here? How do we get that? It's just a file that's attached to the actual music that's created. And it's the sound file that's used for any program that creates music, Noteflight, Finale, whatever. But a different type of sound file where you have all the individual voices broken up and stuff. That's easy to get from. If you have a custom arranged, you can just be like, can you send me the MIDI file?
Right.
Or Lee arranges on Noteflight. And that's, if people don't know what Noteflight is, it's a really awesome arranging program that it's like a Google Drive for arranging.
Yeah, that's actually what I use. Yeah.
Yeah. And all my students that arrange right now use Noteflight. I have a Noteflight subscription for my school and stuff to get kids involved and whatnot. But because I use Noteflight, Lee uses Noteflight, he just sends me the Noteflight link. And then I go in there and I can take the PDF and I can grab the MIDI file. But if you're not used to that, you can just ask the arranger for the MIDI file. Okay. And then the last thing, some people are probably saying, all right, well, what if I'm not getting a custom arrange and I don't have the MIDI file? Then I say, reach out to the arranger. How do you do that? Just message them on Facebook. That's literally what I do. And it surprises me how many people forget we have that tool out there. So just reach out like, hey, I just bought your tune. It's amazing. This is my process. I just need the MIDI file so I can make voice parts. Guess what? That arranger will be like, awesome. Hope you enjoyed the song. Here's the MIDI file. Some of them will even just send the parts for you right away. You can do that. I've done that with so many just random pieces on J.W. Pepper, choral pieces even. Just message the composer arranger, obviously if they're living, right? And ask for the MIDI file. And I've had great luck. And then I can just break the parts up. It's really simple once you get the MIDI.
Aca-Education podcast. Aca-Education podcast. Aca-Education podcast. With who? With Justin Glodish.